Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel.
Hi guys, so happy to have you here with us again today.
Okay, so today's format is a little different and honestly a little more dramatic than usual.
We're doing speed dating, sort of, a simulated version where I'm going to play a series of different dates and David's going to play the English learner trying to make a good impression, mistakes and all.
And then afterward, we break down what actually went wrong, what a native speaker would actually think in that moment, and how to fix it.
Because dating is honestly one of the highest pressure situations to use a second language in. There's nerves, there's timing, there's humor, there's flirting, and one small misstep can completely change how the whole interaction feels.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm David.
And I'm Emma, and let's get into round one.
Hello, nice to meet you. What is your name, please?
Hi, I'm Sarah. What's your name?
My name is David. I am very glad for making your acquaintance.
Okay, stop. Glad for making your acquaintance? Nobody has ever said that on a date in the history of dating.
That's exactly the mistake I wanted to make. That's a very literal, very formal translation of a polite phrase, and it just completely kills the natural flow of a casual first meeting.
Right, and here's the thing. It's not wrong. Grammatically, it's actually a correct sentence. But tonally, it's wildly mismatched for the situation. It sounds like you're meeting a business client, not a date.
So, what would actually work there instead?
Something as simple as, nice to meet you, is honestly enough. You don't need to add anything more formal on top of it. In fact, adding more formality in a casual romantic context can come across as nervous or oddly stiff.
Which is such a good point, actually, because a lot of learners think more formal equals safer, when in dating specifically, warmth and casualness usually land much better than formality.
Exactly. All right, reset, round three. And this one's going to be a little more emotionally loaded.
Can I ask you something personal? Are you finding someone right now?
Okay, are you finding someone is very different from what I think you meant.
Yeah, that one's rough. Finding makes it sound like an active, ongoing search happening right this second, like you're mid-search on a dating app while sitting across from someone.
Whereas the intended question was almost certainly, are you seeing someone or are you single, which is the natural way to ask about someone's relationship status.
This is such a classic verb confusion, though. Find versus see versus date. They all get tangled up because in a lot of languages, one single verb covers all of these different meanings, and English just splits them into separate specific verbs.
Right, seeing someone specifically means dating someone casually or early on. Dating someone is a bit more established, and finding someone isn't really used this way at all in English. It sounds almost like a shopping metaphor.
Which, to be fair, might accidentally be a little funny on an actual date, but probably not in the way you intended.
Definitely not the confident, smooth impression you were going for. All right, let's do round four, and this one's about compliments, because compliments are a whole minefield on their own.
You have very beautiful eyes. I like your eyes very much.
Oh, thank you. That's really sweet.
Okay, wait, that one actually worked pretty well, right?
It did. That's actually a great example of a mistake-free moment. Simple, direct, sincere. This is a good contrast to show that not everything needs correcting. Sometimes simple and grammatically basic is exactly right.
Which is honestly a relief to hear because I think a lot of learners assume every sentence needs to be complex or impressive to sound good.
Completely the opposite, actually. In romantic or casual contexts specifically, simple, sincere language usually outperforms complex, elaborate language every single time.
Good to know. All right, round five, and let's raise the stakes a little.
So, what are you looking for? Like, are you looking for something serious or just casual?
I want the marriage quickly, and children also quickly.
Okay, that's not even really a grammar mistake, that's more of an intensity mistake.
Right, the marriage with the definite article is a small error. We'd just say marriage, no the. But the bigger issue is the directness and speed of that answer.
In a lot of cultures, that level of directness this early would be completely normal, even expected. But in a lot of English-speaking dating contexts, especially in early conversations, that intensity can feel like a lot very fast.
So it's not wrong information, it's more of a pacing and cultural calibration issue, which honestly isn't really about English grammar at all. It's about conversational norms layered on top of the language.
Right. And this is such an important, underrated point for learners. Sometimes the mistake in a real conversation isn't linguistic at all. It's about matching the emotional pace of the exchange. And that's a much harder, much subtler skill to build.
A softer version might be something like, I'd love to eventually settle down and have a family, but I'm not in a rush. Same underlying meaning, completely different pacing and tone.
Much smoother landing. All right, round 6. Let's do a humor attempt because jokes are one of the hardest things to pull off in a second language.
Do you know what is funny? I am afraid of chickens. Since I was small child, a chicken chased me and now I have big fear.
Wait, that's actually really funny. Tell me more.
Okay, that one landed better than I expected, honestly.
It really did, and there's a lesson buried in there. Small grammar slips, since I was small child instead of since I was a small child, missing the article A, barely register at all when the content itself is genuinely engaging or funny.
So the actual content, the story, the vulnerability, the humor matters so much more than grammatical perfection in a lot of real conversation, especially emotionally engaging conversation like storytelling or humor.
Which circles back to something we've said in previous videos, confidence and content carry conversations. Grammar accuracy is honestly a smaller factor than most learners assume, especially once you're past a basic communication threshold.
Let's do one more round before we get to the sweeter ending, because I want to cover a mistake type we haven't touched yet. Mixing up idioms mid-sentence.
So, what do you like to do for fun outside of work?
I like to kill two stones with one bird. For example, I go running and I listen podcasts at the same time.
Okay, kill two stones with one bird is a genuinely impressive attempt, but the actual idiom is kill two birds with one stone.
Right, the elements got flipped. Birds and stones swap places entirely. This happens a lot with idioms specifically because you're memorizing an unusual, non-literal phrase, and the individual pieces are easy to mix up under pressure.
And there was a second small slip too. Listen podcast instead of listen to a podcast. Listen needs that preposition to before the object, whereas a verb like watch doesn't. Watch a movie, no preposition needed.
Which is honestly one of those small preposition rules that just has to be memorized verb by verb. There's no clean universal pattern behind it.
True, but again, in the actual flow of a date, an idiom mix-up like that is far more likely to get a laugh than any real judgment. It's charming, if anything.
Genuinely, I think if someone said kill two stones with one bird to me on a real date, I'd find it endearing, not embarrassing.
Exactly, which is a good reminder that a lot of what learners fear as embarrassing mistakes actually read as charming or funny to native speakers, not as failures.
All right, let's do one more before the ending, and let's make this one about handling an actual disagreement or awkward moment, because that's realistic too. Not every date goes smoothly.
Actually, I have to be honest, I don't think this is really working for me.
Oh, okay, I understand. Thank you for your honest. I respect very much.
Thank you for your honest should be thank you for your honesty. Honest is the adjective, honesty is the noun, and after your, you need the noun form.
Right, that's a really common word form mistake. Using an adjective or a noun is grammatically required. And I respect very much, the natural order would be I really respect that, or I respect that a lot.
Small structural mistakes, but here's what I actually want to highlight about this round specifically. The emotional response itself was excellent. Calm, gracious, not defensive, not desperate.
Which honestly matters so much more in the rejection moment than grammatical precision does. How you emotionally handle a difficult moment in a date leaves a far bigger impression than a missing suffix on a noun.
Completely agree. A calm, respectful reaction to rejection, even with imperfect grammar, reads as maturity and confidence, which is genuinely attractive, regardless of language fluency level.
That's such an important point to end this section on because I think a lot of learners specifically dread awkward or negative moments the most, assuming their limited vocabulary will make things worse.
When really, tone and emotional intelligence carry those moments far more than vocabulary range does.
This was really nice. I'd love to see you again if you're interested.
Yes, me also. I had a very good time with you today, and I hope we can meeting again soon.
Small one there. Meeting again should be meet again. After can, you always use the base form of the verb. No ing, no to.
Right. Modal verbs, can, will, should, must, are always followed by the plain base form. Can meet, not can meeting, not can to meet.
But again, small, forgivable, completely understandable in context, and honestly, on a real date, this level of a mistake wouldn't derail the moment at all.
Let's talk for a second about why some of these mistakes felt embarrassing in the moment, but genuinely didn't matter at all, versus the ones that actually could shift how a native speaker perceives the interaction. Because I don't think all mistakes are created equal.
That's a great distinction, actually. Grammar mistakes, verb tense slips, missing articles, wrong prepositions, these almost never change how a native speaker feels about you. They register briefly and then get completely forgotten.
Whereas mismatches in tone, intensity, or pacing, like the marriage example earlier, tend to stick around a little longer in someone's impression. Not because they're wrong, but because they shift the emotional read of the whole interaction.
Which is honestly a really freeing thing to realize. You can relax enormously about grammar accuracy specifically, and instead put your energy into matching tone, warmth, and pacing, which matters so much more in a dating context.
It kind of reframes the entire anxiety around speaking a second language on a date. The fear is usually, I'll say something grammatically wrong and it'll ruin everything, when the real risk, if there is one, is almost never about grammar at all.
Which I think is true of most real-life English use outside of formal writing or academic contexts. Grammar mistakes are noise. Tone mismatches are signal.
Which I think is a great note to end the roleplay section on. Let's step back now and talk about the bigger patterns we saw across all 6 rounds.
So, pattern 1. Overly formal language in casual romantic contexts tends to backfire more than small grammar mistakes do. Warmth beats precision here.
Pattern 2, verb tense errors, especially around duration, since versus for, present perfect versus simple present, are extremely common and rarely cause real confusion. They just create tiny half-second hiccups.
Pattern 3, specific verb choice matters a lot in emotionally loaded topics. Seeing, dating, and finding are not interchangeable, even though a learner's native language might treat them as one single concept.
Pattern 4, simple, sincere language often outperforms complex language, especially for compliments and emotional moments.
Pattern 5, pacing and intensity matter just as much as grammar. Matching the emotional speed of a conversation is a real skill, separate entirely from vocabulary or grammar knowledge.
And pattern 6, genuine content, stories, humor, vulnerability, consistently outweighs small grammar imperfections in how a conversation actually feels to the other person.
Which honestly, if you zoom out, is true of dating in any language, not just English as a second language. Connection matters more than perfect delivery.
That's such a good way to put it. So if you're learning English and you're nervous about dating in it specifically, the real takeaway here isn't study more grammar before you try.
It's the mistakes are genuinely fine, mostly forgivable, and mostly invisible compared to how much confidence, warmth, and authentic content actually shape the interaction.
Let us know in the comments if you've ever had an English dating story. Good, bad, or hilariously awkward. We want to hear the real ones.
And if you enjoyed this format, let us know, because we've got ideas for more role-play-based videos. Job interviews in English, ordering at a restaurant, arguing with customer service, all with the same real mistakes, real breakdown approach.
If this helped you feel a little less nervous about real conversation, hit subscribe, because that's really the whole goal of this channel.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
See you in the next one.